Howdy, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar, Winning in the Age of AI for Retail SEO. I'm Beth Spriggs, HFA's COO. I'll be your host for this insightful session presented by the Home Furnishings Association. So as retailers, you've probably noticed SEO isn't what it used to be. With AI-driven search and answer engines changing the way customers discover products, the big question is, how do you stay visible and competitive? That's exactly what we'll dig into today with our panel. So we would love for this to be a highly interactive session. We encourage you to post questions throughout the conversation using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, and we'll get to as many as the questions as we can. But before we get started, just a few other quick housekeeping notes. This webinar is recorded and will be available on demand at myhfa.org/webinar. If you have questions, use that Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. And I want to give a shout out, big thank you to Synchrony, who is our education thought leadership sponsor, for their dedication to the industry and support of these webinars. So let me introduce our panelists. First, we have Freddie Wright, Senior Digital Director at Conquest Digital Solutions, with over 20 years in digital marketing and millions of dollars in ad spend under his belt. Freddie helps furniture retailers and other businesses connect with the right people at the right time through data-driven strategies. Welcome, Freddie.
Thank you for having me.
And joining him is Steve Weir, SEO strategist extraordinaire at Conquest Digital Solutions. Steve brings 25 years of tech and marketing experience, from growing sites to millions of daily visitors in the early internet days to helping local retailers today turn online visibility into real customers. Hi, Steve.
Hi, thanks. Thanks for the introduction.
Yeah. So we've got a very meaty topic here, and we're going to jump right in and start with the big picture. So thinking broadly, how is SEO for retailers different today compared to just a couple years ago? What are some of the big changes that you are seeing right now?
That's a great question. I mean, I think for what we've seen, there's been different impacts in different parts. Some of it hasn't been impacted at all, and others have seen some pretty tremendous impacts. I mean, the one word from a famous article from last month was that it's been a bloodbath for some, and it really has for certain parts of it. But for others, it's been kind of status quo. Things haven't changed too much. I would say, if you have been, if your site got a lot of traffic from blog articles or blog content, that's the area that we've seen the most pain. We've seen, and that makes sense, right? Is if you go into Google or ChatGPT now, if you ask a question, you're going to get an answer there, and it's harder to get referral traffic. And so, just as for example, we had someone reach out for some consultation because they had about 30,000 visits a month last year at this time, and then this year, just this last month, they had about 9,000 visits, and they lost all of that content because it was blog content, so they lost a lot of traffic there. Now their ChatGPT traffic went up, but their ChatGPT traffic went from 15 visits to 45, so they're not making up for that loss of traffic. And so what we're seeing is for
Oh, it looks like
Uh-oh.
Steve froze for a
SEO is to
second.
just
Oh,
publish blog articles. Um,
Steve, sorry, you froze for about 4 seconds. I don't know if you can repeat the last sentence or two that you just said.
sure.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, just saying the broader point is that blog article traffic has been impacted pretty tremendously for users. And it's been a long time. That has been for the last 15, 20 years. It's been like your strategy has been, let's write blogs. And those people that relied on that have been hurt. Where it's not been impacted, and if you do searches on your own computer, you can see this, is if you're doing a local search. If you're a local retailer trying to reach your general region or geographic area, there's been much less impact, at least in terms of the search experience that happens for users. If you type in, I'm here in Chicago, you type in furniture store Chicago, the search results pretty much look like they did 5, 10 years ago. The one thing I'll say, and Freddie might be able to talk about this, is that Google seems to be monetizing their ads just a bit more than they have in the past. Google's trying to grab a little bit more of that money. And so you'll see a few more ads on each page. And in fact, Google was just this last quarter announced record profits, which means that from ads and record sales from their ads. So Google's getting a little bit more share of the pie. We don't know if that's because some of those people that were blogging are now spending money on ads, or they've increased the prices, or they've increased the monetization. But I think, you know, from the biggest picture, from a search perspective, from people trying to discover furniture retailers or things like that, I think it has had the biggest impact on blogs, less impact on local, and then definitely some more ads going on there. Then there's the whole other side of that equation, is what are retailers doing to show up and shore up their SEO with this thing, and that there's a whole bunch of side to that as well.
Wow. Freddie, is there anything you would add on to that?
Yeah, I think as we get into the topic, one thing that I wanted to say, SEO it's kind of like maintaining that storefront, right? And as the introduction said, I do the digital ads. Steve handles SEO, and with SEO kind of maintaining the storefront, advertising is like putting up the sign and then inviting those people in. So both matter, but one without the other limits results. So I think as we get into the conversation, it's important to think about that, not only in terms of Google AdWords, but some of the other pieces of advertising, digital advertising that would be happening that are filling the funnel. So SEO is always capturing that demand as people are ready and they're making the search, but
Mhm.
how are you as the business owner or the marketer creating the demand in the first place? And like Steve said, those local searches and Google searches are advertised. You see more advertisements within that. So although it hasn't impacted things a ton, you definitely see the first paid positions before you get to the real SEO ranked sites.
It's interesting, and I like how you just highlighted the importance of the two together. The SEO with the advertising, like it all matters. And then fascinating the impact on blog posts too, because I
Yeah.
was fully aware of that. So that is really interesting. Um, so are there any specific shifts that you're seeing in shopper behavior as search becomes more AI driven?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I think there's been a big shift. To the first thing that we're seeing is that user queries are much longer, right? Users used to type in, living room couch, maybe it was their search. That's all they put in there, right? Because you didn't want to mess up your results. And now it's like uh, couch for living room with white walls in a mid-century modern house or something like that, right? They're getting way more detail. Or maybe even like, I would like my living room to feel more cozy. What kind of couch should I use in here to do this? And then even so, they might even start to include a picture or other things like that, right? And the tools can have a pretty good answer for that, right? They can start showing some things and do that there. So users are lengthening what they're looking for, and maybe coming in a little bit more aware of what their needs are, right? So they're maybe coming in a little more educated and a little bit with more specific needs, and maybe searching a little deeper. Whereas they might just have in the past just gone to the local store. Now they're like, wait a second, I really want this type of couch, and they don't have it, right? So making sure that inventory is totally updated and on the site is really important. The other interesting thing that we're seeing is, as ChatGPT has risen, Google searches have not declined. In fact, Google had more searches last quarter than they ever had before, right? And so what we're seeing is people are using ChatGPT to find information, to answer questions, to show mock-ups of their living room and everything else that you use ChatGPT for. But when they're still going back out to find a place, to find that piece of furniture, to find the ottoman, sofa, dining room table, whatever, they're going into Google and doing it kind of like they had for the previous 20 years or so. So
Mhm.
Users really have users have definitely changed, but then also to a smaller degree kind of stayed the same when it comes to actually finding what they want.
Mhm.
Yeah, I remember. So, I was born before the internet, I'm sure like many of us. And I was in, when I was in college, they had to teach us how to search the internet. Literally part of a class that you took, how to properly search the internet. And I feel like now it's just a conversation. People literally just type in whole sentences, questions as if they're having a conversation in order to find what they're looking for.
It really is a mind shift. This younger generation that's going to start out using this. It used to be you'd go into Google and you were doing research, right? You'd type in something,
Yeah.
you'd get 10 links, you'd try to find which one had the right answer. You'd hope you'd pick one that didn't have too many ads or like a long story, right? And now it's like, it's as if the LLM summarized those 10 answers that you saw below and give you the right answer right away. And it's great, in that respect. It does shorten the field for people trying to get clicks though, right? Because you only got that one chance to show up in the very top
Oh, that's
of
right.
it. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that as
you
Freddie?
said something.
I
Go
was,
Oh,
ahead.
go ahead, Freddie.
I was going to say, I think that as we all use ChatGPT, we know that you kind of have to teach that software what you're looking for. And maybe as we've all interacted with it, we realize that longer conversations are really what get the better results. So maybe we're just all naturally navigating that information over to a Google search. Maybe.
yeah, it's like the
Well,
AI is teaching us
Yeah,
as
right.
much as we're teaching it.
That's right.
Yeah.
But that I think of two other things when you guys mentioned that. One is, congratulations to everybody for coming here, right? Because from when we talk to clients out there, there's so much fear, so much concern. What am I doing? What's happening with AI? What's this? And I just want to say, like, by virtue of you being here today or listening to this webinar, you're getting ahead, right? There's so much concern about like I'm not up to date. Well, like, if you're even here, you're probably in the 50th percentile or higher in terms of your understanding of it, and hopefully we get you a little bit further in there. And I think, don't let the ambiguity and fear stop you from pushing to take advantage of these new tools and new things to help your business along. Like I know Freddie sees it too. You hear so much fear from clients and things. It's like, yes, but like understand everybody is scared to death. And if you really looked at the big picture, you're probably way ahead of those guys just by being here today. So I think that's important.
Love that. Yeah. Shout out to our audience. Thank you. Um, so now in addition to SEO, we do keep hearing about AEO, which is answer engine optimization. So can you explain what is it and why does that matter for retailers right now?
Yeah, I think traditional SEO is about trying to get your website, your web page to show up in those top 10 blue links within Google, right? The AI or AEO, sometimes called GEO. There's a couple different terms. The industry has not settled on how we're going to call it yet, and it may be a fight that goes on for years and years.
What's the GEO stand for?
That is generative engine
Okay,
optimization. So,
great.
sometimes they call AIs generative tools. Sometimes they call
Mhm.
them LLMs for large learning models, large language models. So a couple different tools fighting it out to determine who's going to be the best. But and I think in AEO, you're narrowing the scope, right? As we talked about, right? When you do an AI search, it kind of takes the results of those 10 links and gives you one single answer. And that's the goal of AEO, is to be in that one single answer pool. Now, what you often see is it's not one single answer, right? It's an answer, Google and ChatGPT will give you an answer to your question about, what size ottoman should I have for this room or whatever. And it'll give you 5 to 6 different links off the site, and AEO is the push to be in that answer, to have your text cited in there. And it shares some hallmarks with what good old SEO has been. In fact, you probably can't do the one without the other, but it also has its own unique needs and challenges that you need to pursue and to try to make sure that you're showing up in there. So, and I'll give you a third one. I would also
Mhm.
consider there's a third sort of thing, AI SEO, and that is using AI tools to help with your SEO, right? And that's sort of doing traditional SEO or maybe even AEO, but using, new tools and things like that, which I think are so important for retailers to do. So
Okay. So using AI to help with your SEO. Now we're getting
Yes.
meta to then help that show up in your AI results too.
Well, yeah. I mean, here's the thing, right? For furniture retailers, the one of the things that's common and unique to common to furniture retailers, but unique to them is that there are so many SKUs, right? There's just so much product out there. And for the longest time, it's well, like write good product descriptions. But when you've got 2,000 products or more, right, it's very hard to to keep those updated, to make them unique and all that kind of stuff. And the one thing that AI helps us to do is you can take 2,000 product descriptions, ship them into any any LLM or AI tool, and say, give me something unique, and focus on my audience, which is uh, younger discount oriented furniture shoppers, right? And it'll write it, and it can give you a much better description than you ever had in the past. It'll be much more targeted to your audience. You can do that kind of thing. And I think the other thing, with AI SEO is you can pull a lot of this data. The other thing with by virtue of the fact that there are thousands of SKUs, that there's thousands of pieces of data in search volume and search terms and all this kind of stuff. And you can bring that data all in and have the AI figure out, like, hey, we noticed there's a lot of search terms for modern dining room furniture. Maybe we should build a page for it or something like that, right? It'll uncover trends that you didn't see in the past. So
Nice. Yeah, that's really interesting. And so then how does optimizing an answer engine different from optimizing a search engine?
I think, as I said, I think they're very similar. I think the difference is that for writing content for AI is you need to be a little bit more concerned about having unique facts and data, right? Because it's gonna go from like what used to be 10 or 20 or 30 results, and it's gonna give one. So it's looking for something unique or a unique edge, at least in the facts or data, or like making your content unique by how it answers a user's question, maybe of a more subjective nature, right? I think I talked about like great couches that make a room feel cozy, right? That's a subjective thing, but that's probably a question that people are going to have. And if we can answer that question directly, it's going to have a nice headline, it's going to get some clicks, and it's going to be unique to that. And I think the other thing is content for AI should, really try to go in depth. So, with old SEO, you could probably win with a 500-word article, so long as the title of the article is on target. Now I think the requirements are higher. You want a little bit more, definitely some pictures, definitely some tables or other information, and then using headings, subheadings whenever possible, including artist or author information so that there's some credibility to it. All that kind of stuff I think is important. So.
No, that's some helpful tactics there. Freddie, is there anything you would add into how you would approach things differently?
Yeah, I think as Steve is talking, one thing that we've ran into, a lot of clients think that they can just copy and paste straight out of ChatGPT. So maybe we should warn against that a little bit. You want to make it your own, give it your own brand voice. So from the seat that I sit in, that's what we try to do, is make everything cohesive and line up with the advertising. So don't I would caution, don't ever just copy and paste, right, Steve? Make it your own, change some of the things, add the headings like Steve is mentioning. Um, it gives you a lot of good information, but you definitely want to be sure it fits with your brand.
Okay.
Yeah, you definitely need to check it. And you definitely need to like hone, this is talked about a lot, but you need to hone your prompts so they're really giving you a good result. So, and it takes some doing, if you're writing 100 descriptions at a time, it'll spit it out and you got to go through a lot of them to make sure that it's not saying things that are not true. Because it follows your directions exactly, but it interprets them very, very differently. And so you have to be very, very careful with what you tell it and check what you get back, because I mean, we've had it. We said, just last week I wrote we were writing an article and we were using ChatGPT, and I said, give us some credible information from authoritative sources, and it gave us authoritative sources and things like that. And then we clicked on the links for the authoritative sources, and they were all fake. It had faked sources from you. So, and that's not at all uncommon. It does that kind of stuff all the time. So you definitely have to check its data every single time.
Yeah. So some really important words of caution there in how you're engaging with this. Freddie, a follow-up question for you. How do you think retailers can start weaving in the AI, AEO into their existing strategies with email, social media, paid campaigns, but doing it in a way that doesn't overwhelm budgets?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So one of the tools that we implement and see the best results with is, traditional digital advertising has always been the puzzle pieces of behavioral targeting, keyword targeting, retargeting, things like that. Well, now you can layer in AI so that maybe when you start your campaign, you're telling your ad partner or the system that you're working with, this is who I think my perfect next customer is. But then based on the people who are engaging with your ad, suddenly the computer system and the AI is pointing the ads to someone else and saying, okay, well, maybe they don't fit all of that criteria, but they have made some searches online or they do have these behaviors which indicate they could be a good, perfect next customer. So if you're not taking advantage of those AI tools that are out there in advertising that you're already doing, for sure, ask questions about those. And then another thing that I would add would be to always A/B test creative. So don't just run one creative. There are AI tools that allow you to even do things like click a button that makes the call to action colors appear different. So Steve might see an ad with a green call to action button because the system knows that he likes the color green, whereas mine might be a blue button. It could also do things like serve Steve a different ad versus what it shows me based on our behavior. So it is definitely creating a lot more opportunity to customize the ads in existing digital and other advertising that we've always done. Some of those same tools I just talked about are also available for email marketing. So definitely explore. Quite honestly, you could ask ChatGPT what those options are, and it gives you some pretty good answers.
Interesting. It seems to really change personalization
Yeah,
quite a lot and
absolutely.
how we think about it.
Yes, we had one client. The creative we uploaded matched brand colors, dark colors for this interior designer, and then the creative that got the best click
Mhm.
was pink.
Oh,
AI changed it to pink, and that's what got the best click. So suddenly they're thinking, well, maybe I should shift my brand colors, add pink as an accent color. So
oh, that's
it
interesting.
teaches you even more information, I think, about your company and the brand that you're representing as well.
Yeah, because some things you might not even consider.
Right.
Yeah, very interesting. Um, so we've started talking a little bit about tactics already and some things that people can employ. So digging in a little more on the tactical piece of this. I'm curious if there are any quick wins that you think a retailer could do right now.
Oh yeah, I think there's a lot. I mean, I think there's a lot out there for retailers to sink their teeth into and see some quick stuff. I think the biggest win for everybody right out the gate is adding more content to your site. We see this for people, all over the place. They just don't have enough information on their site. So, adding, text to your homepage, adding more text to your collections pages, your living room furniture collection, your bedroom furniture collection, your mattress collection, all that stuff. Adding more descriptive content to those pages is important. Adding new pages for each user type, maybe you've got, style of design. It can be useful because people are going to search that. You have this tool that can really create unlimited amounts of content for you at a very, very easy rate. You got to use it. And the reason why this is important, uh, we can get into this a little bit more, but like when I ask ChatGPT, for our clients, we'll go in there and we'll say, what do you know about this customer? And we ask ChatGPT that question, and go and please do this for your own stuff. Go into your own for your own brand name, go in there and ask ChatGPT, what do you know about my brand? And it'll give you some answers. And then you say, what sources did you use to find this information? And what it all the time, most of the information that ChatGPT knows about your business comes from your own website or your own Facebook page or your own thing there. So and it copies oftentimes the superlatives all on its own. So if you say that we are the best furniture retailer in Chicago, well, ChatGPT says, well, it said it's the best furniture retailer in Chicago. I'm going to take it at its word. And if someone searches for best furniture retailer in Chicago, I'm going to consider these guys. So right? When you're thinking about your own things, you need to tell ChatGPT what you are and who you are. And you need to have those words on your page. If you have the best furniture, if you have the best living room furniture collection, then say it. If you have the best warranty in the area, then say it too. But you know, these large language models, these AI tools, which are large language models, they use language. So let's use the language, give them words to sink their teeth into about your business, and put that on there. I think that's one quick win. It's just more content.
Mhm.
Using superlatives, I think, is good. The other interesting thing we're seeing for ChatGPT in particular is ChatGPT does not have access to Google reviews. So it doesn't have that wealth of information. Google has all that stuff, and that's great. So ChatGPT tends to use Yelp and the Better Business Bureau. And in fact, it seems to trust the Better Business Bureau quite a bit. So make sure your Better Business Bureau information is up to date. If you got a few complaints there, you might want to research in there. I don't know what the Better Business Bureau is selling for anymore right now. It's like it used to be like $200, but probably worth it just because ChatGPT is relying on it. Um, Seek out awards for your business. ChatGPT and really Google too loves awards. If you can be, the local furniture retailer of the year in your area, if there's a, best place, one of those best of articles or things like that, if you can get in one of those articles, awesome. And then you want to make sure you put that information on your website so that the search engines know about it. And then you want to link to the award wherever it sits so that they can prove that it's there. And in general, if you're ever mentioned positively somewhere, link to it from your website, because Google is an excellent search engine. It's going to billions and billions of web pages per day. ChatGPT is not. So you have to really show it the good information so that it finds it, because otherwise it might find it. And then I think I have so many tips. But I think the other thing is improve your product schema, right? So on your product pages for an individual piece of furniture, there's this behind the scenes code that says, I know that this web page looks like this, but the price of this sofa is this much, its style is this, the manufacturer is this, the size is this. Make sure that behind the scenes information is updated with everything you possibly can, because the LLMs, the AI tools, they love that product schema. And I think the last thing is, and you probably heard this tip, but like, wow, does ChatGPT and Google AI love Reddit? They love to get their information from Reddit, and so there's almost always going to be a Reddit for your town. And people are going to go into that Reddit for your town and say, what is the best furniture store in Chicago? Well, make sure that someone on your team is out there monitoring those threads and putting in your name as the best furniture store in Chicago, because the AI tools are going to read that and believe it. Or any other related query that you might want to show up for, make sure that you're posting in there, because the AI tools love those things. I think those, I don't know, 5 things, whatever those are. If you can implement all of those, you're going to be way ahead of the game, and it's really going to boost your regular SEO too. So it's just a virtuous cycle of things that you can do with that.
That's a very rich list. I was like, we could wrap right there and go, there you go, everybody. There's your list of things to do. I'm going to go back to the first thing on your list about adding more content.
Mhm.
How do you add more content without cluttering up your page and making it look like losing your brand look or feel? Is there a way to hide content that the AI can still read? How do you do that?
I like the way you think, but that's probably a bad idea. So
Okay.
Google really doesn't like it when you hide that content. My experience is that there's that first image people get when they land on your page, right? And I really really hope that everybody out there, when it's their first image, you're explaining the who, what, why, and where of your business, right? Oftentimes it's just a picture of a furniture gallery, like of your store on the inside, but it doesn't really say anything. You need to help orient users to, like, we are here we are the best furniture retail store in Chicago, or something like that, right? You really want to help that. Okay. Aside from that, what you see is 90% of the user behavior usually happens in that that first above the fold screen, and then any of the navigation that you have there. The rest of the stuff is kind of like, some people will get there, but most people won't. And I think your opportunity is to add content as you get lower on the page, It still impacts the LLMs. It still impacts the AI tools. They still like it. It's just lower on the page. It's out of the site. And if you ever did one of those things where they track eyeball tracking studies, people
Yeah.
just aren't getting that low. So its impact of adding that stuff is really, really negligible for users. It can really help someone if someone is scrolling that far down on the page, they're looking for something, right? If we can give them some information about us, it's probably going to help them. And so I don't think I think there are ways to do it tastefully done that will prevent from having issues.
Okay.
Freddie,
So
what do you
anything,
see on that?
yeah, what
Yeah,
did
I
you
was
want to
going to
add?
say, gosh, we work together all the time, Steve and I, and it's still, I learned so much. So Beth, like you were saying, that was so much information. I'm trying to figure out like how to process all that. But I think the piece, and you'll probably hear me say this a couple times, SEO and AI are kind of part of that big picture. They're driving people to the site, right? My number one thing that I would encourage any retailer on to do would be to do some type of digital advertising still, whether it be, a meta campaign that you're executing yourself, or you find a digital ad partner and you're running, OTT ads, something. Because without that piece, you're only catching the people who are still actively searching. They have to actively be in the market and go search for, I want a new mid-century modern sofa, whatever that search is. And unless they know that you're there and you are the number one furniture store in the market, and that's why they should come to you, the advertising is still the piece that's going to get that message out. So that would be my number one takeaway is yes, focus on everything we're talking about today, SEO and AEO and all those things, but still advertise. Don't just think that these are going to be the fix all and will bring everybody to you.
I,
Yep.
I want to just double down on that point, Freddie, because the other thing the AI tools sort of assess, and even Google does this to a large degree, is like, for a given query, Google wants to show you the best answer, right? And like the best answer when it comes to a retailer is, well, which retailer is the most important in the area? And if you have a strong brand, people recognize you. If you're out there doing other advertising and things like that so that people know who you are, know what you stand for, know what your brand proposition is, then you're more likely to show up in the AI tools. You're more likely to show up in Google. It really does help that perception. And I think, as we go further and further along here, the importance of a strong brand is really going to dominate. And it kind of, we're seeing these people who, as told at the outset, who got killed because of these blog things. Like, this makes your business stronger and more resilient to whatever changes Google or these other guys choose to make. If you've got a strong brand that you've built over time with effective advertising and quality service and whatever, I think that's going to be a difference maker that helps SEO, but just is just an asset for the business over a long term.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So we have a question from our audience that I'm going to pose to you both. So this is direct from our audience. They're saying, as far as product tags go, we know Google creates a dynamic URL that fights for authority with our normal pages. We currently have 17,000 tags. Usually multiple tags are added to each product. For example, Zen style or white sofa. What do you suggest we do for SEO and those product tags?
So this sounds like a canonical issue. So what happens is for a lot of sites, you'll have a particular type of furniture and it'll kind of fit into three different categories. Or, the filters that you see usually on the left side of a search results page is under $50 or, under $200, modern style, free shipping or whatever, right? And what often happens is if you select those different things, the website changes the URL. So you're seeing the same exact product, but it's probably available at 16 different URLs or even more. And the proper way to handle that, it depends on what your CMS, if you're on Shopify, if you're on, a WordPress derived site or whatever. But the proper way to handle that is with what they call a canonical URL. And a canonical URL is basically hey, search engine, no matter how you're seeing this URL, if you're seeing this as under $50, whatever, or if you're seeing this as free shipping, whatever, the real URL for this product is here, right? And so it sort of tells Google to ignore all those other variations. Ignore the 16 different variations and just use this one. And that's kind of how that is typically handled. It can also be handled a little bit more aggressively in what they call the robots.txt, which is this file you send to Google saying, these are the URLs you want to use, these are the ones you don't. And you can also handle that with your site indexes. It's a pretty complex and technical question, and there can be a whole bunch of nuances in it. I think that's a very broad-based answer. I'm happy to discuss that one further offline if needed. So,
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. One other follow-up question from our audience is, why has the blog effectiveness decreased?
I think the biggest thing is what you used to get answered in a blog, you're now getting answered in an AI answer. So, where it used to be, if I type in, you know, best 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 living room furniture or best couch for a small living room, and I used to get 10 different website pages that would answer there, right? And I might click on a couple to get my answer, right? So for that one query, there was 3 different clicks that went to 3 different websites. Now there's one single answer at the very top. Google's keeping that user on Google. They're showing them the answer right there, and they are not clicking on the result to go see the actual page. They're saying, "Oh, okay, I should look for a high back sofa because of this, or with short rails, or I don't know what." But they're getting their answer right there and then moving on. And Google's keeping them on the site versus sending them to the 10 links below. And that's where the blog traffic is gone. They're getting the answer right there on Google, and then they're not clicking any further.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Hey, I mean, Google's figured out how to keep them on their page longer. Good for them.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's been a trend for the last 15 years, is that Google wants to keep them on the site, and they're taking the traffic away from retailer. And now,
Mm,
we're lucky. We're retailers. People have to eventually come and buy from us here. There's people who made their entire businesses about having and publishing information, and that stuff just died. And it's just
mm,
kind of like they stole it from them. So
wow. Um, so in all of these uh, really good tactics that we've talked about here, as people go about implementing these, have there been mistakes that you've seen people make in trying to do this, or things to kind of watch out for? Where has trying this gone wrong, or what cautions can we be aware of?
yeah, because content is so, I think this is only at the extremes, because I think most people aren't creating enough content. They're not using these tools to do enough to create more pages, to add more stuff to their site. However, there's always going to be the guy who goes, "Oh, you want me to create more pages?" And then they're like, "We created 5,000 pages and we launched them yesterday." Right. And it's like, well, that's kind of a lot of pages to give to Google and to soak it up. And so I think you need to consider that you need to always still have quality, and you don't want to overdo it. I think there's people taking things a little bit too far in terms of the content creation is probably the biggest and most common mistake, although I say it's pretty rare. The larger mistake that most people are making is not doing it at all. And I think we want to get after it there. And I think the other thing is, I always believe with SEO is, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, right? We want to have great content. We want to have great things, but you're going to get so much more by putting it out there and seeing what reacts. If you don't have a page for cozy furniture for living room, right? You'll never get a piece of traffic for it. If you have a page and you don't necessarily love it for cozy furnitures for living room, well, you'll still get the traffic that you never had before, and you'll still have a chance of converting that person. So I think my default is always to publish, get it out there, see how people react, and then edit as you move ahead, because um, you're going to get rewarded by creating this content. And so the further hurdles you put to it, it just takes a longer time.
Is there anything, Freddie, that you would add to that?
From the advertising seat, I still come back to the content, right? As
Mhm.
Steve was talking about, we're generating the content and figuring out what keywords and all of those different things work. That can also parlay over into the advertising. Be sure you're adding those to your list of keywords that you're targeting. Work those into your creative, your messaging. And like Steve just said, it's something that I say on the advertising side all the time. Your video, your message, your advertising message doesn't have to be perfect. You could even run your current tagline through, an AI, a chat GPT, and figure out different variations. And just being sure that you're getting something out there. It doesn't have to be a Hollywood produced commercial ad. Most content that is produced just on a phone works just as well. So I think exactly what he said on getting something out there, not making it perfect, is what I'll echo on the advertising side.
No, that's really good advice. Just, yeah, don't wait, just do something
Do it.
and
That's right.
get it going. So I am really happy we have a very active audience today, and I have a couple more audience questions for you. So one is a follow-up to the blog conversation. Do you see blogs as valuable for messaging and authority to generate citations in a GEO strategy, even if they're not as useful for traffic?
I would say definitely, right? If you can get, so the question really is like you can create a blog article and you can create the blog article for driving traffic to it, right? But then the side effect of blog articles is other people see your article and they put a link on their website to it. So they'll say, this is a great article, you should read it over here. And anytime someone creates that link to your site, it sends a signal to Google that you're an important site. And so to the extent that your blog articles are garnering links, that people are linking to them, that's a very valuable thing to have. And that is a very, very useful thing to do. In practice, I just don't see a lot of links to blog articles. We've seen people that we have great blog articles that drives a ton of traffic, but people just don't. The linking is really, really minimal in terms of that behavior. So now you may have a good game in that. You may have like because what other people will do is they'll not only will they publish a blog article, then they're going to reach out to people and tell them, hey, you should link to my article and stuff like that. If that's your game, then I would continue doing that because you're building up things like that. Most people 98% don't do that. They publish the blog article and that's it. And they don't get any links for it. So it doesn't really provide that much value. So I think it's a great question. I think, and I'll just underscore that, and we're seeing this even more. The more times you can get friendly people to link to your website, whether that be, maybe you did a deal with a local realtor, maybe you're doing pro bono work for Habitat for Humanity or something like that. If you can get those websites to link to your website, that's a vote in favor of your website. That's going to help you with AI SEO or AEO or GEO, whatever, and regular SEO and other things as well. So I kind of, links are still very valuable in this new world.
Yep. Excellent. Thank you. And then one other quick follow-up question on the product tags, going back to that, should product tags be part of the sitemap?
I would say no. I don't think they need to be there at all, right? The sitemap is intended for Google to find your content and to find your URLs, right? It helps a large site like many furniture retailers are to know exactly where every single URL is, rather than coming to the homepage, clicking on everything there. So I don't think the product tags need to be there at all.
Okay, excellent. Freddie, question for you. So SEO and digital campaigns in general can look very different from a local retailer versus a nationwide brand, right? So what strategies should furniture retailers think about depending on their reach, if they're small or bigger, and what that looks like?
Right. I think just keeping in mind that not everything is cookie cutter. So if you see a campaign that inspires you while you're on a business trip in Atlanta and you try to go home to your market, that's much smaller and try to replicate it, it's likely not going to work. So you need to be sure that you always customize it for your brand, do the research on your audience, your city. Think about everything that comes into play that makes your business unique, your city unique. Another thing that I'll mention is, just not only being sure that it's customized, but be sure that it's real and authentic. I said that earlier with the video content that you're producing, but just be sure it's real.
Yeah, love that. So for a local furniture store, right, how important are things like Google Business Profiles, local citations, and reviews compared to like broader content strategies?
Well, I think the Google My Business profile is like supreme importance for a local business. And I think, we're learning how Google's using its own AI tools on its own data. And we're finding that that Google is using the Google My Business profile for Google AI results. And so we've been working with our clients to add more information to it, to use some of these special features that it has, to put more data into the Google My Business profile so that you'll show up a little bit more. I think that is really, really important. The reviews, as you mentioned, also very important, right? It's like, how can we tell one retailer from another? Well, one of the ways Google does it is those reviews. Now, what we see is there, after you get 10 reviews, there's not a ton of benefit in like at least the quantity of reviews, but you do want to have a steady stream of new reviews coming in so that Google knows that you're still a relevant business, and will continue to rank you high, that you're active, right? If it starts to see a slowdown in the reviews, then it says, well, maybe these guys aren't active. We're going to not show them up as much as we used to. So a steady stream of new reviews, it convert, as I said, Google's trying to figure out which businesses are more important. And as you have those new reviews, Google says, okay, these guys are still important, still good. And those reviews also contain information. And Google's definitely using that information to determine what's good. We had a great time. The service at this furniture store was excellent. Then Google knows that, and if someone types in, "I'm looking for a furniture store with excellent service in Chicago," it's going to read that review information. It might help your business to rank higher for those queries.
So is that just for Google? Is AI using the reviews or not using those reviews? Is that just for
Well,
the
different
Google
AI
search?
tools are different things. ChatGPT is trying to become a search engine. It's not there yet, and it's way behind. In fact, for a while it was using Google results, may still be a little bit, but Google's trying to shut that down. It has some of that information. The biggest problem is the one huge advantage that Google has is they have more reviews than anybody else. They have more reviews than Yelp. They've got like 5 times the reviews of Yelp. So if you're a business and you're trying to like, well, I need to find a way to rate local businesses and understand them, and I can't use Google stuff, you're going to try to use Yelp, you're going to try to use Better Business Bureau. You just don't have as much information. And so that's why for ChatGPT, that information you put on your own website fills that void a little bit, and you can help influence those results that way. But they just don't have the information that Google has, and they probably never will. So they've got to find some other way to figure out how to rate businesses.
Okay. And really interesting point you're making there, that how recent the reviews are matters more than how many you have total. So that,
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
yeah.
it just shows that they're active, that that this business is being used, that people are saying things about them, and it also probably keeps it current, right? If you've got a new
Yeah.
line of furniture in your store and stuff like that, and it's mentioned in a review, that can help you for discoverability for that particular set of terms. So, I still encouraging more reviews is great. It also, as always, the the happy people generally don't leave reviews unless they're encouraged to do it, right? The angry people are going to get even. They didn't get the
Right.
refund they wanted. They don't, whatever. They're gonna find the way to give you a negative review no matter what. The happy people need to be encouraged. That's why you just need to, you need to spam people asking for the review via text, via phone, or via email, whatever, to make sure you're getting those reviews, because it helps your Google rating, and it also gives you a little bit of a safety for that one angry person that has given a zillion businesses negative reviews, and now it's going to give you one. So
Yeah. Yeah, people who are grumpy tend to want to put their voice out there more. But
well, the Grand Canyon has a 1-star review, and it has a 1-star review because some person complained that it didn't have an elevator. So if the Grand Canyon is going to get the seventh wonder of the world, whatever, I don't know what wonder of the world it is, but if that has a negative review, then your business is going to get one too. You just got to be ready for it.
there's no elevator. That's great. Reset some expectations on that one.
Yeah.
That's funny. Um, okay, so we kind of started big. We got into a whole bunch of amazing good details, and now I'm going to zoom back out for a minute. What is a truly holistic approach to digital visibility look like for a furniture retailer? And I would love to hear answers from both of you, get both your perspectives on that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Freddie first because I think he touches on so many things and brings a lot there. But then I can fill in from what Freddie says.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think from my seat, being on multi-screens is the big thing. So, right, we have changed our entire being, all of our habits. We sit and we watch TV with the phone in our hand, as an example. So, if you are a furniture retailer, even on the local side, going back to the last question that you asked, you don't have to have big budget. You can buy ads, running on Hulu or inside of streaming that are local, maybe have a local influencer, and then that same ad pops up on my phone. And if I see it in both places while my favorite TV show is on the background, suddenly it's going to feel like you're everywhere and you do have that big budget. So I think being in multiple places is a big thing to be, and it doesn't have to be expensive. You don't have to put a lot of money into each place. Um, uh, Facebook is still king when you think about socials. So no matter the demographic that you look at, no matter the different technologies that are popping up, the TikTok and X and all those different things that we hear people talking about, Facebook is still king. So if you can't and you don't have the bandwidth to do anything other than a Facebook or a Meta campaign, that's a good place to be as well.
Interesting. Okay. What would you add to that, Steve?
Well, I just think, it 18 months ago, you know, discovery via search was Google, right? And now it's ChatGPT. And it wouldn't surprise me if we get other one perplexities making some traction, Claude, uh, there's the Twitter one, which is Grok. There's just a bunch of different other tools out there. And I think, where it used to be just focus on Google and the rest will figure itself out. I think you need to keep a holistic strategy when you're thinking about it and look at these other tools. Go into each one of these tools. This is one of my favorite things. Go in there and say, what do you know about my business? Where did you get that information? What do you know about my competitors? Where did you get that information? What do you know about furniture stores in Chicago? Where'd you get that information? Do that to all of them and see where they're getting their stuff. And then that tells you, oh, I need to be in those places. I need to mimic that strategy. I need to take on those things, and that can help you improve your visibility there. So I think all these tools are going to get better. I think the competition for Google's only going to get more and more. Google's holding steady at about 90% market share for search. I think that's only going to decrease as we move ahead. And I think you need to have, need to be looking at a bunch of different other places to making sure that you're visible there.
Yeah, that makes sense. So how should a retailer think about connecting this SEO strategy to their in-store experience?
I always think that you got to make it look like you got dressed in the same room, right? That you're all like wearing the same things. And so if your SEO is talking about, quality of service, then make sure that that comes in there. Or if you're known for quality of service in the store, make sure that that comes out on the website as well. And I think that ensures that the user is not going to be surprised when they enter the store, and that and that it's a consistent experience, and that consistency helps conversion rate for everything. So it really does. Like the more the things I do are aligned throughout the entire process, from the top of the funnel discovery to the very bottom of the funnel when it comes to purchase, the more that is all aligned, then the user just breezes right through the purchase process.
Okay. So kind of that brand consistency, familiar feeling, it's gonna look and feel and sound the same whether you're in store or online.
Yep, messaging consistency I think is
Yep.
key. Throughout the funnel and throughout the different communication channels, whether it be the ads, the different types of ads that you might be doing with Freddie, and all that kind of stuff, and then the SEO, and then the on-site, and then the in the store. So
Yeah. Is there anything, Freddie, you would add to that?
For me, it was just consistency.
Yeah.
And, we have some clients we have conversations with who are looking to change their messaging. And again, I come back to that A/B testing. We all just witnessed through a restaurant chain who attempted to do that.
Sure did. Yep.
Created a lot of backlash. So, um, as you do those things, be sure you test it. Hearing Steve talk about how the website matches the in-store experience, just be sure that you could even take advantage of digital advertising to test that message or that new logo or those new colors before you make a lot of changes and invest a lot of money in store and online.
And try out pink, because you never know if
Right.
pink's gonna work
Yes.
for you.
Right.
I mean, who knows? Maybe that's the right way to go.
Yep.
Um, okay, this is Oh my goodness, I have learned a lot from this conversation. You have just given some real gems of advice in here, and I really appreciate our audience participation too. So, um, so if we look ahead, okay, I would love to hear from both of you a piece of advice that you would give a retailer who wants to stay ahead in this age of AI-driven search, maintaining visibility, cost-effective digital marketing. What piece of advice do you give them to just keep ahead in this space? I don't know.
Boy,
It's a big
I
question
kind of,
there.
yeah, no. Well, I mean, I kind of think go back to what I said at the beginning. You know, the fact that you're here today is a win. It's a huge win, right? Because there's so much out there, and it's hard to find it's hard to find good information, and there's so much fear. You got to drive yourself into that fear and like learn more about this stuff because maybe you own this furniture store and then this is everything you're ever going to do, but from a career perspective too, if you can sort of tackle these issues and be the guy that can answer these questions about AI and things like that, the more you push yourself into it, you're going to find wins from a marketing perspective, and it's just going to make yourself more useful for anything you do going forward. So I'm like push yourself into these things, find other webinars for other industries, and see what they're learning in those things too. Because I mean, look, it takes up a lot of time. We don't have time to take an hour out of every day to do webinars, but if you can plug into something quarterly or something like that, that's great. I'm sure you guys have a lot of great stuff that they can plug into. There's a lot of great resources on the blog that you guys have. So, a lot of good stuff that you can see.
From the marketing side, I'll just go back to, of course, we've talked about how marketing and SEO and AEO, it all ties together, has to all remain consistent. But thinking ahead 18 months, back to your initial question, I think the tool that we're going to hear a lot more about is website visitor ID. So that's a software. Maybe the analogy is everything that we've talked about today is inviting people to a party, right? We're inviting people to come to our website, but we don't necessarily know who those people are when they show up. So this website visitor ID tool, you might hear it called different things based on the technology company. But if you just Google that, it will start to tell you there is now technology that you can install on your website that starts to give you contact information of the people who are visiting your website. So suddenly you know how the SEO and the digital marketing and the traditional marketing, how it's all working, and it gives you that person's information to be able to reach out to them. Have people on your sales, showroom floor reach out to them after they come to the website. So suddenly you're getting hot leads. You're working a ton, and like Steve has said, you're here and you're willing to invest the time in SEO and AEO and marketing. Now give your sales team those hot leads with a tool like that, a website visitor ID. And I think if we were to have this conversation again in 18 months, a year, that would be a piece that would be a hot topic.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Oh my goodness. There's so much information in my head right now, and I could ask you 20 more questions just from my own curiosity of what this looks like. So I really appreciate your expertise. Now, you've given a lot of really good tips and even things people can do right now today. What's the one thing you should say someone should do tomorrow?
Um, Create more content on, go to your homepage, put a 3 to 4 section paragraph describing who you are, products and services that you offer, why you're excellent, and why you're trusted. I think that's the number one thing because there's just not enough content out there on most people's homepages. They just don't have enough stuff. So
For me, it
Perfect.
would be invite people to the party. Do something, whether it's a $50 meta campaign that you run on your own or something a little more grander scale where you're spending $1,000. Do something, make your work seen. As you're focusing on SEO and website, you want people to see it. So invite people to the party.
Amazing. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Freddie, for being here and spending this hour with us. Really appreciate it. You've given us so much information. I also just want to give another shout out to Synchrony for sponsoring our webinars and to everyone who joined us today. We've had some excellent participation and good questions, so thank you. And we hope that everyone is leaving with practical tools and a better understanding of SEO in today's world of AI. Now, before we go, please don't forget to complete the post-webinar survey. You will receive a link shortly to that. If you'd like to revisit any part of today's discussion, The recording will be available soon. Our next webinar is going to be on Thursday, September 25th. It is titled Advertising That Works, Smarter Media Strategies for Furniture Retailers. So until then, thanks for tuning in and trusting HFA to support your success.